Hi everyone, and welcome to the beginning of 2023. I am thrilled to be able to announce the beginning of the long-promised series, The History of Rock with Amy and Karl. We could have started it earlier, but I really wanted it to be the best, most dynamic, engaging experience for all of us, myself and you included. So we waited until now, and I decided to do it as a sort of surprise for the new year that we are now entering. So if you've been following me, you know that I am pregnant and we have a crazy schedule and all of that. But even with all of that involved, we took the time to drive up over the holidays all the way from Tennessee to London, Ontario, to be in person with Karl. And welcome, Karl. I'm so happy to be finally here with you. And again, if you've been watching my channel, you know that Karl is the one who did the introduction to drums for me and walked me through all the beginning elements of how the drums fit into a rock band. So,
hello everyone, I'm delighted to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am, but I'm really excited to be with Amy, and I know all of you feel the same way, because isn't she great?
As you can see, we are so excited to be together in person. The long drive was totally worth it. And I could have picked somebody closer. There are plenty of drummers in the world. Why did I pick Karl? Well, it's because, first of all, we have a wonderful relationship. We enjoy talking and working together. We think a lot alike in terms of our teaching and our passions about music, even though he has more of a rock experience. I have more of a classical experience. We also have a lot in common, and it makes for a wonderful dynamic as we discuss. And also, I feel like he's perfectly, competently knowledgeable about everything that I want to learn. And that is why I chose to come all the way up here. Now, if you haven't been following the channel, let me just give you a quick rundown of myself, who I am, and then I'll hand it over to Karl to do a quick intro to who he is so that we can all be on the same page together. So, I'm Amy, as you know by now, and I am a classically trained musician. I have not spent any significant time in the field of modern style, popular style, or rock music at all. It was never my interest. I was never exposed to it. If you want to know more about my backstory, you can check the link here where I tell more details about the why and the how that I ended up here with this project at this point in my life. But basically, until August, 5 months ago, I knew absolutely nothing about rock music, and I had never intentionally listened to any rock music of any kind. So this is a learning experience for me. It's a very stimulating, fascinating exploration and broadening of my musical world, which I love to do. And I started it as a sort of fun little side project, and then my interest grew and I got more involved and I wanted to dig in deeper. And so that is why I am starting this project with Karl, having to do with the entire history of rock music and going from the beginnings all the way through. And that is our plan for this program. And now, Karl,
Okay.
you can tell your side.
I will do that. Thanks very much. Anyway, as I said, I'm delighted to be here. Before I discuss myself at any length, I was, as Amy has already discussed, was the person who did the introduction to the drum set playing and how it fits into rock music. You can find that link over here if you wish to watch it. But what I want to do is I wanted to give a big shout out to the audience, the people who engaged in that video. As you know, I responded to every comment that there was on that video, and you provided me with superb feedback, which I am grateful for, because like Amy, I'm interested in always improving myself, both as a presenter and as a teacher, and that's my goal. So again, I'm going to talk about myself, but I wanted to give a real heartfelt thank you to the 550 comments that I received, because it really was very helpful. Anyway, a little bit about me. I'm from London, Ontario, Canada. I was originally born in Germany, and my parents and I immigrated to Canada back in the 60s. I was born in 1963 when rock and roll was really starting to come into its own. And I was fascinated by the Beatles. And what that did is it pushed me into learning about music. And I started to classically trained piano lessons through the Conservatory of Music here in Canada. I got to my grade 6 in piano, and because the conservatory didn't offer rock music and I wanted to play the Beatles, I stopped taking piano lessons, which incidentally I've regretted ever since. I took up then playing other instruments. I played a side drum or a snare drum in a Scottish pipe band. I then started to take formal tuba lessons, and at the end of this I ended up learning 13 different instruments. I am heavily classically trained as a musician. Not the same level as Amy, but I come fairly close. She and I have had some great discussions over the past few days, and we find that we can talk about classical music pretty close to the same level as one another. But where I differ is after I came out of the classical environment, I went heavily into rock music, starting out, believe it or not, with punk rock. And then I moved forward. I played in numerous bands over the years, everything from Latin jazz bands through to country bands and classic rock bands, all the way through to death metal bands. So my breadth of knowledge, especially as a drummer, is quite significant. I became a published author. My book is called The Coordination Code. I guess I should have a copy. We can show that to you later. And there's a link. We will put a link on the site to show you where you can actually find my book through Alfred Publishing, where I wrote all about basic coordination studies for drummers, but it actually applies to anyone who's a musician and wishes to learn more. I also had my own radio station or radio program on a radio station in Germany back in the 1980s, and I played ever since. And now you're at my music school. I also run a music school with a couple of partners that I have, and I teach every instrument within our school, and I wrote all the curricula for every course we ran. And our curricula, and we're going to do a video of my curricula a little later just to show you how many books there are, is over 3,000 pages in length. Finally, I'm also a military officer. I believe in structured approaches to things, but I also believe in always incorporating flexibility and, most importantly, fun. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy what we're doing, and I really sincerely hope you get something out of this, because I will do my best to provide great information. And my last comment before we go any farther is, I don't know everything. Certainly I'm far from it. Nobody does. So your comments, if you wish to expand on something that maybe I haven't spoken about, are always welcome. Again, as always, just be polite and don't beat me up too much. I'd very much appreciate that.
We plan to structure this program, this series, in a way that will first give me a quick overview of the progress of rock music from the late 1930s.
Yeah, that's the origins. Yep.
Through until modern times. And so the first 10 episodes of this are going to each cover one decade in the course of rock music, and a little bit try to give a quick overview why that decade is important, what it achieved, and then go on to the next decade. After those first 10 episodes, then we'll go back and we'll take a more expanded, in-depth, detailed tour. We don't know how many episodes that will go on. Karl has a list of
over 300.
Over 300 songs, which he wants me to hear and study in the course of this project. So we're leaving it open-ended. Maybe it will end up being super long. Maybe at some point we'll get to the end of it. But I think it's going to be a wonderful journey and experience, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that we can publish one new episode each week. I'm not going to promise that because things can always come up, and because of our distance physically, location-wise, we might have to spread some things out from time to time. But our goal is to be able to have enough ready and ready to present that we can put a new episode up every week for you. Of course, since we're so far apart physically, then what we're doing is we're hoping to do as much of this in person as possible. So we're scheduling times when we can meet and do an intensive, packed series of recordings, then take home all the raw footage, and as Vlad is able, he will edit and prepare it and get it ready for release. He is going to post as much as possible ahead of time on our Ko-fi and Patreon pages. So for any of you who want to see more of what's coming ahead of time, you'll find it if you go through, sign up for the memberships there. Our plan for the public YouTube channel is that every week we will release during the week 2 pieces which Karl has chosen for me to listen to, songs, instrumental pieces, whatever he chooses, that he thinks are relevant and important for what is going to be discussed. And I will do a first listen of each of them, and you will get to see them posted throughout the course of that week. That will give you time to follow my journey and digest each step of the way, and to interact with us. Because as this series is being posted, we'll be watching the comments, and we'll be engaging with all the reasonable ones, making it as interactive as possible. Karl will interact too. So that means that if you have something to add or contribute or comment or a question to ask, we'll be paying attention. And we're going to do our very best to respond and engage with any reasonable question, comment, interaction on the channel. Then, at the end of the week, on the weekend, we will post our discussion part of the series, where after I've listened to those 2 pieces, then Karl will come with his history and musical knowledge of that field of music, and we'll have a discussion and just talk it over together. He'll tell me what he feels is important. I will ask him questions. It's going to be very natural, and we're going to let it flow and see how it develops. And that will be posted on the weekends. As I said, we hope to do this, have something to post on my channel every single week. If we miss a week, it doesn't mean that we've abandoned the project. And I want to reinforce and reiterate, this is about learning more, exploring and broadening our experience together, and doing it together, not just the 2 of us, but together with you. And I hope that you will be able to feel engaged and enjoy the process as well. We will publish the first 2 first listens this week, the first week of 2023, and the first discussion episode this coming weekend, the first weekend of 2023. So you will get to see some things coming up right away, and hopefully we'll be able to continue the rhythm of it from there on.
Last thing I want to put across to everybody is when Amy and I started talking about this project with Vlad, one of the focuses was, this is about Amy. It's not about me. It's not about everybody else. I am actually going to teach her about the progression and the development of the rock music genre, because that's what she wanted to learn about. So see yourself as voyeurs watching into this world as Amy starts to develop more and more greater knowledge of the instrumentation, the musicians and the bands that play. Now, when we started to speak, it was, how do I grip a 50-year period of music, which is so diverse. 300 songs is not nearly enough to cover all the salient points and to give her a real strong feeling for what's going on. Same as if I said to Amy, yeah, give me 10 songs that sum up classical music. She can't do that. So when we start this project and we're doing 2 songs from each decade, please don't go, oh my God, they didn't pick my favorite song. They didn't do Freebird by Leonard Skinner. Don't look at it that way. This is the start of the discovery. So the songs I pick, there's going to be songs you don't like. There's going to be songs that you love. It's just the way this works. But we should all be excited about Amy's journey. It should be an interesting name for the show. Amy's journey into rock and roll, because I'm sure she's going to discover a great deal. So when you're watching, the other final point that I have for this is it's going to be at very high level at the beginning. I may only pick 1 or 2 comments about a given song and its importance and what was going on in the development of music at that time. So, for instance, the 1950s, the teenager was invented. I may not talk about that, though, in the initial discussion that we have. That may come up later when there's a song that's more important to that age group and how those developments happened. So when we do our first one, please don't come on and say, well, you should have discussed this and you should have discussed this. We may do that, but it may be a little bit down the road when there's something that is more pertinent where it fits into that discussion.
But at the same time, if you feel like there is something that's very relevant, feel free to come in and say, well, think about this, add this in, and it's not going to ruin my journey in order to hear more from all of you. It's going to enhance it.
Exactly. I just didn't want people to think that just because we didn't talk about something, it doesn't mean it's going to come up in the future. It's just, if I were to talk about all the details of something in one video, we'd have a 7-hour-long video on one song. That doesn't make for great watching on your part, because then it just gets too laborious.
Right.
Anyway, that's everything I had to say, but I'm so excited.
Yeah. Me too. This is going to be fun, and have a great day, a great night, wherever you are, and I will see you all very soon.